I do not think the American dream should be buying a home anymore. I think it's full of shit. I think the whole thing is gonna go. In the next 50 years, it takes time to rebrand.
Gary Vee just told us that homeownership will probably be dead within the next 50 years. Let's take a look at Gary's argument, and then let's respond to some of the points that he makes. Let's get into it.
It's fucking bullshit. Yeah. It's a bad use of upfront capital, and it ties you up, and it's just not smart.
It's not gonna appreciate.
And what is it for? Like, I'm pissed that I own a home. Yeah. I would literally rent in perpetuity now. And I will. Like, I've decided, like, I will never buy another new home.
People buy homes. People buy fancy cars. They buy it and they go to college for one reason, for significance.
100%.
They wrap that shit up.
Acceptance.
Right, acceptance.
Number one, Gary suggests that real estate or buying real estate could be a bad use of capital. And I think it's important to define here what he means by use of capital. Usually when we think of use of capital, we're thinking of where can I put my money and make the greatest amount of money back. And that is naturally going to be different for every single person. Look, if you have inside information that Bitcoin is going up to 20 grand tomorrow, I would highly suggest let's ignore insider trading rules for a second, okay? Here, this is not an indication that you should do anything illegal. I would probably buy a whole ton of Bitcoin if I, for whatever reason, knew its value was going to skyrocket tomorrow. The same is true as if I was running a media company and I knew that every dollar I put into that media company would turn into $5 thanks to the power of, let's say, Facebook ads or my Shopify dropshipping store. Well, of course, these returns on my capital would be extreme. But unfortunately for the vast majority of Americans and, well, probably people in the world, we have trouble getting even a return of our capital when we invest it sometimes.
That's meta as fuck.
Analyze where you are in terms of return on your capital. If you're making dollars on your single dollar, great. Keep doing what you're doing, whether that's Bitcoin or stocks or investing in your business. Perfect. But if you're not investing and you're not making any money, then real estate could actually be an interesting way to force you into saving. See, when you buy a property, you have something called principal paydown when you finance it. And so now, if you buy a property, and of course we follow the principles of buying it in the wedge, that is maybe figuring out how we can buy a $200,000 house or a house that's worth $200,000 for $150,000 and insulating ourselves with that net worth increase that we get. When we follow these principles, which we teach and talk so much about in the real estate investing course, link below if you don't know about it, then we know that real estate can be a good tool to make money with our money. But aside from getting a good deal and building your net worth and all of that, let's just make it very simple. When we look at paying rent somewhere for, let's say, $2,000 per month, and we look at paying for a house, that same maybe $1,800 per month, plus let's say $200 for repairs and fix-its and all that other stuff. So basically we're par. Rent is $2,000 and homeownership is $2,000 per month. Homeownership comes with this added benefit that every single month you're paying off that loan.
Like, I'm pissed that I own a home.
And that principal paydown is so quickly forgotten when it comes to, well, really life in general. And what you end up having is you have this society of people who own houses, sell them, basically lose all of their principal paydown because they sold the property, and then go to another one, and they sort of repeat the process over and over and over again. But if you sort of revise your mentality into, okay, I can get into this $200,000 house with 5% down, which I could get gifted from family, or heck, maybe because I make a normal amount of income, I'm not making an excessive wage, maybe the state or my local county is going to grant me money for that down payment towards that $10,000, or heck, I got $10,000 saved up or whatever, and I'm going to control this house, and all of a sudden every single month I'm going to pay off that loan, and I'm actually forcing myself to put money into basically a forced savings account.
I do not think the American dream should be buying a home anymore.
If you were renting for the same amount, you wouldn't be paying off the loan, and you wouldn't be controlling an asset that would go up in value. And again, it's important to contrast that, sure, it sounds great. Let's take $10,000 and control a property and have the same payment as what we would have with our rent, and now we control something that over the long run goes up in value, and we're paying the loan off on it, and basically now we're par with renting. That sounds great. That's wonderful.
I think it's full of shit.
The real takeaway for point number one is we have to break apart. Is buying real estate a bad use of capital for everybody? And I would argue no. In fact, I would argue that for 9 out of 10 people, buying a house is probably the best use of capital they could do. Why would I say that? Because usually when people have $10,000 saved up, what do? They start getting loose with their spending.
Fashion will never fall. I gotta show you that I'm wearing fly fucking clouds and dirt, or a Gucci bag, or shit, or an Under Armour. Like, that's how we express.
Start buying a little bit more on Amazon. Start going to restaurants a little bit more. Start buying that fancy Gucci clothing that really doesn't matter because you feel like you have so much more worth because you got this money saved up, but then you never end up investing it.
Yeah.
Like, I know you're driving a fucking Lambo. I see it.
So if you're going to be that person that never ends up investing, buying real estate would be a pretty cool way to kind of force yourself to invest. And again, your goal is don't sell, don't be that person that's constantly trying to buy or sell or flip or wholesale or all this junk.
Oh my god, a realtor that says don't sell!
Now, on the note of forgetting about it for the next 30 years, Gary makes the argument that real estate ties you up. And this is a pretty common argument.
What is it for? Like, I'm pissed that I own a home.
I get tons of people, even people in the real estate investing course that just join. They start off the conversation of joining with, hey, I'm going to college in this area. I'm not sure if I should buy because I know I'm going to be moving in the next 4 years. Maybe I should wait to buy. And my response always is, well, think to yourself. If all of the other boxes line up, you can find a good deal, you can afford the property, you have the down payment to invest, and the area is one where the population seems to be going up and all of the other factors for location are checked off the list, then maybe you might ask yourself, maybe I should buy this property, rent out the rooms to roommates or whatever while I'm living there and using it. That way I'm helping decrease my costs rather than paying a landlord who's doing the same thing, renting out all the rooms, basically the same living setup. And maybe then when I go to move, I'll already have a connection with a property manager locally, and I'm going to keep this as an asset. Now you go to move to a different area, guess what? You're already a landlord. You already own an asset that could go up in value. Now, Gary could be right here because he does say that home ownership ties you down. But it only ties you down if you think that, I must only own real estate that I live in. That is, you buy a house, you live in it, you want to move to a different state? Great. Got to hire a realtor, got to put up a for sale sign, got to go through the sales process, then I'm going to take the money and move after I pay all those fees. Yeah, I would agree with Gary here. That would tie you down. But if you change your mentality and you think, oh, well, wait a minute. What does Kevin always say in the real estate investment course? Wait, don't immediately think selling is what you have to do. Why don't you turn it into a rental property? You know the house better than everybody else because guess what? You just lived in it for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, whatever. Rent it out, now you've got a long-term asset that will sort of grow in value, hopefully, over time. Obviously, you can't make any guarantees of that, but historically, that's the point of owning assets, right? So number 3, what's it for? What's home ownership for? So here, Gary, I agree, could be right. What's the difference between owning a property and having to pay for the maintenance and management and dealing with all of it compared to just renting the house? And he's right here. If your function for buying a house is solely to have a roof over your head and that's it, you're gonna sell it when you're done with it, don't buy a house. I agree. I don't think you should buy a house because if you buy a house and your sole purpose for buying that house is to live in it and you plan on selling it, guess what you're going to do? You're going to overspend on the property. You're going to buy stuff you don't need.
Fucking Lambo.
You got to deal with all the management and the maintenance of it. And then you're going to over-improve on like the new heater you have to put in because you're like, well, may as well get the energy efficient one because I'm living here and I'm paying the utility bill and all this stuff. All this stuff that doesn't matter. I'm going to put in the new dual pane windows. I'm going to get this fancy upgraded 40-year roof instead of the 30-year roof when it's time to replace the roof. All that stuff. Big money pit. So, yeah. Now, if you flip your mindset and you turn it into, I'm gonna live here for a few years, I'm gonna beat the crap out of this house, and then as soon as it's time for me to move, I'm just gonna put a tenant in after doing some quick paint and carpet and some quick cosmetic finishes. And the heater goes out, I'm just gonna put in the base model. I'm not gonna go crazy. I strongly agree with Gary Vee. If you're gonna buy a house and then you're gonna sell it when you move, just don't buy a house. If you're gonna buy a house with the concept that you are turning this into a rental property and is a long-run investment, buying a house could be a very good utility to force yourself into investing for the long run. Now, on number 4, I actually took this argument because I think it's really important to clarify. Gary says, I will never buy another new home. And I think the key word here is new. I'm questioning, did Gary V buy a house in a new construction development or did he build new? Because I have an entire video on new construction homes exposed and how usually when you buy a brand new home, much like a new car, it goes down in value before it goes up again.
Like, I will never buy another new home.
That should be pretty self-explanatory. I know it's usually not, but new construction homes are notorious for this. Now, you oftentimes pay for benefits because now you have 10-year builder warranties and, longer structural warranties or fit and finish warranties and things like that maybe you don't get on an older house. And, new is nice. It is nice to move into something brand new, but in terms of being an investment, it can sometimes be debatable, especially if you get in and you start over-improving. The best kind of new house to buy, if you are going to buy a new house, is one where you're not doing all of the crazy upgrades. Maybe you're taking a few upgrades, or maybe the builder's already thrown in a few upgrades. But to go above and beyond and upgrade everything like crazy might not be the best investment style decision. And if you go into it again thinking you're just gonna be a homeowner, bad. Don't do it. I agree with Gary. You're gonna go in and go, it's gonna be a future rental. Go for it. That might not be a bad idea. Now you got a newer property, it's one that you can hold for 30 years without really worries about things breaking down. You'd probably be able to have your overall costs lower than if you bought an older property. Then it's not such a bad idea.
It takes time to rebrand.
But a good distinction to make yet again, that there's the difference of being a homeowner and being somebody that is a homeowner with the intent to invest. I think that's where you get the difference. Now, Gary then agrees that people buy houses for significance, and it really doesn't matter if you're renting or owning the property because, well, you live in the house, and because people don't know that you own it, somehow it's less of a status symbol.
Sure.
But here's the thing, real quick. Let me tell you the difference between a Lambo and owning your own home. I'm looking at some people here. We're all looking at each other, right? You just don't know if you own the home or not. Like, you don't have to know.
Yeah.
Like, I know you're driving a fucking Lambo. I see it. Yeah. But you live in a home. I actually have no fucking clue how much mortgage you have on that home.
And I think this is, well, quite frankly, a little bit unfortunate that Gary is thinking of homeownership from the point of view of a media person or social media person. That is, I'm gonna wear these fancy Gucci shoes and drive a Lambo so I can give off the persona of being more successful. If that's the purpose, if that's the goal, yeah, Gary's right. Go ahead. Go rent some fancy mansion and park your Lambo in it. And you're right. Nobody has to know that you're not a homeowner. Doesn't matter. He's right. Save the upfront cash, dump it into more of a rent payment, that way you don't have a down payment, and forget about it. But if your mindset is homeowner versus homeowner with the intent to be future investor by turning it into a rental property, then you also usually don't have the mindset that the only purpose of a house is significance. To me, any house I've ever bought has not been a matter of significance. It's been, this is a good deal, this is, like, the day I close escrow, this is going to make my net worth go boop. Even though I'm spending money on the down payment and I'm spending to fix it up, my net worth is still going boop every time I close a house because I'm buying the good deals. And they're out there. So to kid yourself into thinking, oh, there's no good deal. I just walked through a great deal with Jack that's totally underpriced. He's already got multiple offers. Somebody could swoop in right now and still get a good deal on it. It's unbelievable the amount of opportunity that's out there. And these things come on the market every day in every area. Now, argument number 6 is that the whole thing is going to go. And this, another area where Gary could be right, where the idea of home ownership solely to own a property to live in might go away. It might become, we might see an Uberization of culture and society where it makes more sense to just rent here for a little bit and then Airbnb there a little bit, Airbnb there a little bit, and use the houses as what they are, a utility. But there's still going to be those underlying investors that are coming in to buy properties, live in them, and then when they move, they're going to keep them as rentals, and then they're going to put those rental properties into the service industry to capitalize on essentially the new culture that Gary is alluding to that wants to use these properties as little short-term rentals or whatever. Again, the underlying principle of being a homeowner with the intent to invest unlocks a few options for you. Cheaper interest rates, lower down payments, and essentially a lower upfront cost to homeownership.
You're smarter than you look.
It's because, much like Gary and the Robin Hood analogy, I want to take the knowledge that I have from working with very, very wealthy people and share it with you here in this video for free, or at a very, very, very small cost in the investing course link below, the power of controlling real estate.
He gave way more than he took.